Okay, welcome everyone. I call to order the July 23rd, 2025 regular board meeting pursuant to Idaho Code sections 33506 and 33510. Can the clerk determine if a quorum is present, please?
There are 3 trustees in attendance, the quorum is present.
Okay, thank you. And we're moving on to approval of the agenda. There are no additions to the agenda, I don't believe so. Good. All right, moving on to approval of the minutes.
I will move that the Board of Trustees of Muska School District Number 281 approve the minutes for the June 24, 2025 fee increase hearing, annual budget hearing, and regular board meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes 3-0. So we then move on to the end of the year special education wrap-up. Shannon.
Wow.
Straight
I'm
up.
excited to be with you again. I wanted to use the bulk of my time just giving you an update on Vandal Quest and refamiliarizing you with that program. It's continued to grow and morph, and so I wanted to share some of those updates. Just hitting before that though, our IDEA federal grant award is of similar amount. It's about $3,000 less, but didn't take a huge hit. We were all holding our breath a little bit. This summer, before I left for summer break, directors had a chance across the state to apply for a mini grant. The state, if they have dollars that have been unallocated for whatever reason, they come back to us and say, are you guys needing things? And directors this year said we have to update in our evaluation tools. And so they said, okay, great, we'll write a grant for it. So I did, and we were awarded $4,400, and that'll get us, that'll allow us to update 2 of our evaluation tools that we use all the time. And then just on a staffing, this summer we have lots of changes and openings and that sort of thing. And almost every year I've said we have 16 parapro positions to fill. This year we only have approximately 9, so that is great. We have 1 sped teacher that the high school will be working to hire. And then we have a language support specialist, which is not an interpreter, but they support students that have American Sign Language needs. They might be really hard of hearing or cochlear implanted, so we have that position also open. So that feels like a very doable August, getting people hired. So
put you on the spot because it just popped into my head. Speech language.
That's filled.
We've made progress over. So like just a little bit about our staffing on that, and then what we've had in the.
We're back
past,
to 4 full-time speech language pathologists hired. So the changes that we put in place a year ago, which was to honor their work in the hospital settings, nursing home settings, any private, that I think has really helped. And then also acknowledging that their master's degree is like a master's on steroids. It's the only way I can think to describe it. Where maybe principals get a master's, it's like 32 credits. Their master's is 68 plus then another year after that where they have to be supervised and then they have to take a national test. And so we started honoring that type of a master's. Our school psychologists have to do a very similar thing. We put them at the far right column, and I think that's really helped us as well. So we were down 2 years ago to just 2 of our own SLPs, and we had to contract everything else. Last year we started crawling out of that hole. We had 2 new hires and 1 retirement, so we were left with 3 and 1 opening that we contracted with Presence, and then the company's name is Presence for teletherapy. And then this next year we'll be back to our 4 full-time SLPs. Great.
And that was a negotiations agreement to just kind of immediately place SLPs on the far right end education-wise. And I think it has had a positive impact on, one, also just retaining the staff that we have and then recruiting new staff.
Right, so that feels really good. So on to Vandal Quest. Quest actually is an acronym. It stands for Quality University Experiences to Support Transition. And transition in this in this presentation is getting at those young adult years where the students are leaving the four-year high school setting, but they still qualify for some special ed services. So it's that 18 to 21 year group that qualify for this transition work. So we're working on getting them as independent as we possibly can and helping them develop their employment skills, and then also continuing to work on some academics. So that's what QUEST stands for. Just as a quick overview, our QUEST program is a certain type of program. It's called an inclusive post-secondary education program. And that inclusive means we put them on a university campus, and we put them with typically developing peers. The college population are their peers. And so that partnership for us is with the University of Idaho, and our students are dual enrolled. So they're a Moscow High School student, but they're also a U of I student. And it says that this model makes up about 20% of the inclusive post-secondary education programs across the nation. So we are the only ones doing it this way, and I really appreciate the university's willingness to partner with us and to develop this program with us. The students learn on campus, and they are there with their same age peers, and they're working on things like I've mentioned: employment, independent living, their self-advocacy. Our enrollment started out last year at 10 students, and then they age out at age 21. Our enrollment went down to 6 for the spring semester, and this next fall we're anticipating 9. So it does fluctuate by the semester depending on the age of the student. This is a picture of cake. We had a student that aged out and met her goals, and so they had a graduation party for her. The next slide has another program name in that upper left-hand column. It's called Eclipse, and that is an acronym as well for another program. And Andy Sheaf is a past teacher, and he's really good about coming up with these program names. This is another one of his. Employment capacity leveraged through inclusive post-secondary education. So he went ahead and wrote a grant, and it's a grant through the U.S. Department of Education, and it was like a $7.2 million grant. Don't quote me exactly on that number, but it was a multi-million-dollar grant. And it is focused on finding work placements that are what they call competitive and integrated. So they're not it's students working alongside typically developed workforce. So they are surrounded with great role models, and competitive means they're hopefully getting paid. And our students right now did not get paid this year, but our whole goal is to get them into a work environment that really fits them and to have an employer go, I really want to keep this student on once they're done with the program, and then to make that step forward with actually paying them. That's the ultimate goal. It's a statewide project. U of I, BSU, and LC State are up and running. They have their money, and they're starting to hire the staff that will be working with the Eclipse program. U of I hired their first competitive integrated employment specialist in January, and her name is Bethany. And she started working with our students, I would say by the end of January, and did quite a few activities with them. Her job is to find work placements, really partner with the work placements, the bosses, make sure that the students are successful, work to get them trained so that when they go to the job they can be successful and independent. She supervises the peer mentors that also can go to the work site and partner with that student. And so my special ed teacher is now able to focus on supporting their academics and their classwork, their U of I classwork, and their independent living. And then this Eclipse staff is going to work on the employment side of life. So it's now becoming a more doable task. Ken doesn't have to wear 20 hats to get this program going. So that was a great addition. On the next slide, just highlighting some of the accomplishments. 8 of our 9 students passed at least one academic class. The iFit courses are more of a kind of at your own pace type of a PE class. So if we take those out and really look at the courses that were taken, we feel really good about the success of our students in academic classes. Some of the classes that they've taken are Spanish, geology, philosophy, fly fishing, archery, success strategies, art. This next fall, we have a student taking criminal justice. We have one doing textiles and sewing. We've had another student take English and enjoy the writing portion of that class. The next bullet item does acknowledge that Andy Sheaf has been developing 4 very specific courses for our Quest students, and they build on each other, and they focus on growing skills and awareness of their interests and needs, self-advocacy. The third bulleted item is acknowledging also this idea of when they're done with Quest, they can get a certificate. They're not going to get a bachelor's degree, they're not going to get an associate's degree, but they can get a certificate. And this was just approved at the university level, again, to Andy Sheaf's work. They are calling the certificate Career and Community Studies, and it will require them to take the 4 Quest courses. They'll have to take a Communication 100 course, and then they have to have so many electives. And when they accomplish that, then they will be awarded a certificate. So that is very exciting. When this gets put in place, our students become eligible for Pell Grants and financial aid. So this is a big deal. We've expanded the employment hours from 6 total hours a week in the fall to our students were up to working 29 hours a week. That's between all of the students. They worked the 29 hours. Our goal for each student is to work up to 20 hours a week, hit that part-time mark. Some of our students aren't convinced that work is a good thing or it's something that they really want to do. So we continue to expose them to money and the power of the dollar, and we just really try to encourage independence, and part of that is having a job. There are several opportunities for U of I students to come in and provide units and lessons to our students. They developed and delivered sessions that looked at healthy relationships at work. What is an appropriate work relationship? What is consent? What is respect? And then they covered the age-old topic of hygiene, because our students continue to need to address that in order to be successful at work. They had fundraisers. We also did a reverse career fair where the students were ready with videos of themselves working. They had their resumes. They were at a table with big display boards, resumes to hand out, and then they invited the different employment entities on campus to come and to meet our students. And it was a first time, and it was a success. Our students were really nervous, and then at the end we couldn't shut it down. Like they just kept talking, and it was a delight to be there. They've done a lot of U of I events. There's pictures at the end of my slideshow, but homecoming parade, they've done, they went and saw the Bears. They went and sat in on a PhD dissertation presentation. They got to know one of the young ladies, and she brought them along on a lot of explorations of buildings and kind of her work. I right now can't remember what her focus was on, but it was a really nice partnership. They did saw Santa, they help with graduation. There was a student that was asked to help with the College of Ed graduation, and I think he helped people get lined up. So lots of opportunity to be part of the campus. And we have peer mentors that are practicum students. They're in these classes, they're required to interact and be a part of students with disabilities. And so VandelQuest is one of the ways they can satisfy that course requirement. And in the fall, there were 18 peer mentors, and in the spring, we had 15. So they're really helpful. And our students aspire to be independent like they are. On this page, there are quite a few goals that we've set up for ourselves. We do have a current memorandum of understanding with the university. They're bringing back the peer club. That was a student-led club that they realized that our students want to do fun things like river rafting, and that all takes money and it takes a lot of supervision, and so they developed a peer club. And then last year it wasn't a big focus, and so they're trying to rejuvenate that. We need a bigger room on campus, so that's one of our goals. It made the list. We are also trying to be able to audit classes. We want our students sometimes to be exposed to geology, but we also know that taking 6 tests, writing 3 papers, that's really not the focus maybe of for our students. But right now there's no way for them to just audit. And so that is something that we continue to work on. Our school day right now is 5 hours. We're starting to talk about making it a 6-hour day or a 6.5-hour day. We've put together an advisory board, and it will be meeting 3 times a year. And the goals that you see came out of that advisory board meeting. So we are improving the university is trying to improve the process of finding those peer mentors and supervising those peer mentors and getting those requirements for those peer mentors really laid out in their course syllabus, so that Ken Johnston knows exactly what's expected of him and what's expected of those peer mentors to satisfy their coursework. We have a continued focus to get the students to take over more and more of their IEP meetings and to make sure that those are student-led and self-monitored. We want them to know what their goals are. We want them to know how they are achieving on those goals, if they're making growth. So we continue to focus on that. So there are a lot of new things we're going to try to get up and running for this next year. The slides are of the river rafting trip that they did right at the beginning of the school year. This is something that is going to happen again this August, September. For many, this was the first time they had been river rafting, and there were a few that were not sure they wanted to go, but they all did go. There were university students, a couple professors, our special ed teacher. It was well attended. If you go to the next slides, it's just a variety of, there's Santa picture. That was something that came out in the weekly email. Hey kids, if you want to get a picture with Santa. So our students went and did that. The reverse career fairs, that top right, all the students that participated. And if you go to the next slide, I think it shows you the student that gets to help with graduation. He was there with one of the College of Ed students. They were getting their U of I homecoming parade float decorated. So they just try to be as actively involved in campus life as they can as part of the program. So do you have any questions? That was just a quick run through of what we've been doing.
Shannon's done a lot of work this year. There's one other thing I'd like to highlight on that. We realized really reading this year that our MOU had not really been refreshed, and that even the advisory board that had kind of been,
was an
put
idea.
in, was an idea in the MOU, had not really been fully implemented. So it was a great kind of catch, and that led to a series of meetings to kind of resharpen and recommit to the U of I, which I think will bear even more fruit in the years going forward. Kind of establishing that advisory board is meeting 3 times a year and having people connect and refreshing even the who's on the advisory board is a really good change and will keep us moving forward. It's a great program. We're lucky to live in a university town.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering what other places do. I was wondering what other places do, or do they just don't have.
We've actually had students from other places.
Yeah, we've had one student that was ours and they had moved to Troy and he came and did his semester. Palach has a student that they were, again, not this year, but the next year. There are 101 ways to design an 1821 program. And typically the smaller communities around us, they just really try to learn the students' interests, and then they look to the local businesses, local professions, and they develop a really unique day for that student. Remember, they've already done the 4 years of high school, so they don't really have to do a full day at the school building. So typically they work a little bit on their goals, and then they go out and try to be in the world of work and explore. So that's what a lot of the smaller communities do. And then the bigger communities, they actually have very specialized programs, maybe a cooking program or a health program or that focuses on the helping professions. So we just allow our kids at the U of I to really explore a variety of classes and make sure that they have peer mentors to support them and special ed staff. We have one paraprofessional and one special ed teacher that also supports them. So, and then they'll be able to get a certificate at the end once they accomplish it. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Continued support.
Sounds like it's going wonderfully.
We have our bumps and we just talk things through, and there's a lot of people involved, so it takes a lot of communication, but I think we're getting that fine-tuned, so
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, moving on to good news, announcements and presentations. Any good news?
I do have one.
I'm sure there's some.
I noticed that one of our students got an ISBA scholarship, Ellie Vineyard? Vineyard?
Actually,
But I'm not sure
I hadn't got that
whose
announcement.
child,
Rusty
who's
was,
her board member.
maybe she had a grandparent who was on a different board besides Moscow.
Oh, that could be.
I know her dad and mom, but
Okay.
yeah.
Mhm.
Rusty Vineyard, yeah. Congratulations to her, cool,
Yeah.
I had missed that, yeah.
Yeah.
Good. I'll say really quick, I know we'll talk a little bit more about ISAT stuff, but certainly there was an article that just came out with the IRI, and Moscow was just, we're right in this sweet spot of not, like, we didn't get any, they didn't mention our name, but I will say this. They listed the top 10 highest performing districts in the state. Of those, the top 10 on the IRI, almost all of them, all actually except for one, are very, very small districts where with a small number of kids testing, most like under 30 kids that tested, that got some high results. We were actually tied with the district that got 10 as far as our percentage. I don't know if there was a rounding thing that puts us in 11th, but at least out to 1 decimal place, we have the exact same 82.6 proficiency rate. So for a district our size to be in the top 10 overall, including those smallest. And then, of course, they always do this. They go, and we also looked, because the big districts are at a disadvantage for this percentage, so we look at the top 25 largest districts in the state to show their proficiency rates and rank the top 10 again. Well, I think we're like number 27 in the state as far as district size. So we don't make the top 25 cut size-wise. But again, we would have been the number 2. Post Falls had a great year on reading score results. That was really and that's a large system. They ought to be really crowing about their results. I think they were at 84.1 and Moscow's at 82.6, but we didn't make that list either because we weren't one of the 25 largest districts.
Yeah,
in the
I
state.
noticed that when I read it, because I looked at our percentage and compared it to all the ones on the list, and I'm like, we're We have more than most, our percentages are better than most of them, but.
McDonald
We're not on the
Elementary was on the first sheet of paper when it came to elementary schools, which includes some kind of, some charter schools that typically have those higher rates, and maybe you're serving kind of a different demographic of kids, and so McDonald was even above that. I think 88% if you dig into the data. Lena Whitmore exceeded our district average, and obviously would be in the top 25 state, schools in the state. And West Park also did very well, high 70s as a percentage. So like all three elementaries really knocked it out of the park. We get all that good stuff, and actually I had a visit with Emma Epperly, who's one of the reporters from Idaho News, and I'm like, you're cutting us out here. You're killing me. But I think is worthy of recognition at this board meeting. There's going to be some other communication as we head into the new school year to make sure we highlight the work in the reading scores that we've done and continue to do, and where we're at compared to the state, and then also the ISAT stuff as it will come out. So.
All right. Moving on to our first public comment period of the evening. We have no public, and so we will move on to Director Superintendent's reports.
All right, Jen.
Okay, good evening. Can't believe we're already at the end of July almost. But with that, audit season prep has begun. Year-end processing is in its final stages, and then the new year is off to a good start. So all that said, it actually is still pretty quiet here at the district office, but that's gonna ramp up shortly. We've had 2 in-depth payroll and HR Skyward Q trainings. They're about 2 hours each. We have 2 more to do. There's an awful lot of setup with the new system, particularly in payroll and HR. So we've set up these in-depth payroll setup type training sessions to just get everybody on board so that we know how the systems are gonna work together. It's been very enlightening, and I can really see the intuitiveness of the new platform, so I'm pretty excited about that. And I think my team also is seeing that and what it can do. So we're just going to continue to work in both systems, and we're going to mimic those tasks and queues so that by the time we go live in November, then we'll be professionals. That's my hope. And then I was given 2 documents by Hayden Ross. You have those in front of you. They're all paper clipped together. So I think the first one is for the non-audited services that they provide. Moscow School District assumes all management responsibilities, including the responsibility to assign an individual, which falls to me, with the skills, knowledge, or experience, which they refer to as SKE, to oversee, evaluate the adequacy, and accept the results. Non-audited services provide assistance with financial statements and GASB standards, which there are some new GASB standards that we will look at this year. I also have the governance letter, and I think that's the second one. This letter spells out Hayden Ross's responsibilities under the U.S. generally accepted auditing standards and the uniform guidance, as well as the plan, scope, and timing of the audit. We'll cover most of these things in our July or August audit committee meeting.
Next week.
Yeah.
So next week. Yeah. So we'll do all that, but I wanted to pass this on. For the board meetings, we can read it at your leisure, but it's the same letters that they give each year, so. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Okay, Butch.
All right, start off with projects. We've got a lot going on, and first off is our McDonald roof project should be wrapping up tomorrow, which is putting a whole new coating across the McDonald roof. And we also did some tear out of some old mini split AC units as well too, right before they got going. So should be good for the next 25, 30 years. So the next operation director.
Yeah. Superintendent.
Yeah. We'll also be starting our window project this week at McDonald as well too. We should have that shipment in. It should have come in today, and we'll be starting on those tomorrow. When we put in those window AC units, they had actually cut away some of the frame of the window to make them work. So now as we remove them, we need to replace the frame. So we'll be getting those in this next week, and it should be about a 2-week project. New phones are being delivered. We are still short about 30 phones, but we'll be cutting over not this Friday, but probably the next Friday to our new phone system as well too. AC units are being installed at Moscow Middle School. All the electrical work is done. I believe Omega met with just to wrap up all the permitting piece with the city, but that should all be ready to go here in the next couple weeks with AC units in every classroom. Bleacher repairs started yesterday. We have all the pieces to fix the bleachers except one, and waiting patiently on my email to see this last piece to come in. But even if it doesn't come in, it'll be still operational. It's just that one last piece to do. Next week we have a fencing project going on at West Park. Flooring, we ran into pulling up tiles at the high school and at the middle school, so we're getting some abatement done before we can finish those floors. And then finally, we are exploring the possibility of adding AC units in the original section of the high school. So Omega came and said that they feel it's possible for us to get all the electrical work done before the start of fall, and getting AC units in all those windows.
And that really is really big news as far as like, I mean, it's been communicated that we thought we'd have the middle school with air conditioning, but this is the first time like saying it publicly. It's kind of come together today. Like I'm feeling confident that we can have it done in the main high school building as well. So it won't be 100% of the high school, but the vast majority of the high school will have air conditioned space. And the electrical solution again is relatively low cost. So. And then also just with the bleachers, I mean, it's hard to maybe I'll give Butch a shout out. Like, it has been a process, and at the end of the day, like, Butch sent me some pictures of the bleachers, and I'm like, man, after all this work has been done, it's fairly extensive in there. Like, it's one of those things. I guess it's like teaching sometimes. Like, they don't see all of the behind the scene things that have to happen. They just fold up and they work.
Yeah, they either work or they don't.
Yeah, they work or they don't. And so like, and it has been difficult with the company. It has just taken like constant hounding and constant communication to try and make this happen. And it's over there happening right now. So obviously we need to make sure all of the solutions are going to work, all the replacements work, but it's about a $50,000 plus project, $60,000 project, and instead of replacing them for $500,000 or $300,000 or I don't even know, and making them last for a lot longer too. So and it finally happened. I mean, this has been a work of just coming out of COVID was like when the first conversations happened and nothing happened, but we've tracked it down and I'm feeling very good about that. So yeah, thanks.
Yeah, other pieces of the report with our buildings and grounds, we are cleaning every school and it's moving along really well. We've got an excellent crew of temporary staff this year that is just speeding along. We were hoping to get into Lena with the ESY program going on, so we're going to work around them. We were hoping after next week when they're out to get to it, but we're so far ahead on the cleaning aspect. The only piece that's running a little slower is our carpet extracting. We got a new machine and we are picking up, usually on the third pass, still a lot of dirt that's been in the carpet. So that and the hardwood floors is running a little behind schedule, but we're happy with where we are and we'll get through everything. On the nutrition side, we got a new stove in at West Park. The last one was on its last legs and we couldn't get parts for it anymore, so we've got that installed for the start of the new school year. Our average daily attendance for July for the first 10 days was 204 lunches and 200 breakfasts served. It's just been a great atmosphere all summer long. Lots of kids, lots of activities with U of I Extension being there, the library, and also the weekend food bags has made it just a real fun environment as well. So. On the tech side, I talked about the phones. We're still short about 30 phones. I think we've got a solution where we'll get the phones and we've got some with cameras. Those cameras might just ship a little later, but that's one piece we're waiting on. The other piece that's pairing with this is our new back-end notification system called Fusion. And that's going to control all the announcements that we hear over our IP speakers in the classrooms and in the hallways, initiates drills, warnings, but it'll also be able to send text messages as well. So this is going to be replacing our E3 alert system. So we can send text alerts out to teachers. We can create a lot of different user groups as well. So it'll be pretty vast, and we hope to have a really good handle, at least on the school portion, and then we can keep building it out as we work with it. One thing is it's going to be a little different in getting people onboarded to it, but it's going to be more text alerts for teachers, safe and unsafe, and in certain scenarios or drills and trainings. That's just going to be just slightly different, but administrative staff will have a dashboard where they can see all that information coming in. And yeah, we're just working on that infrastructure these next few weeks to get it all launched for the start of the school year. Finally, on transportation, Tony DeShawn's heading down to our annual state conference in Boise this weekend. In the summer, we've kept busy supporting our ESY program, Venture Club trips, as well as handling community trips for both U of I and WSU programs. And that's my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Butch covered all the summer projects, so I'll keep it short. I already talked to, Oh, Carrie, I forgot Carrie. I was like, I'm on a schedule here. Carrie, sorry.
All right, thank you. I
apologize.
only have one thing to share, and that's an update on our federal funding. I wanted to share the communication that was sent to us from the Idaho State Department of Education. We recently received communication. This is what they said. The Idaho State Department of Education recently received communication from the U.S. Department of Education regarding fiscal year 2025 funding for the following Title I programs: Title IIA, Title IIIA, and Title IVA. At this time, the U.S. Department of Education has not yet finalized decisions on these awards. Consequently, the grant award notifications, which are typically issued at the beginning of July 1st, have not been obligated. The State Department is closely monitoring these updates from the United States Department of Ed and assessing potential impacts on our districts. Our consolidated federal and state grant application, which I submitted at the end of June, it did provide us with preliminary allocations in Title II, III, and IV. Based on last year's figures. The State Department is recommending that we wait to obligate these program funds until the 2025 funding levels have been confirmed. So essentially they're frozen. The State Department recognizes the challenges the situation presents. In the interim, they encourage us to review any carryover funding available to support our programs and explore opportunities to supplement support using other funding streams. They are reviewing the grant balances on their end to determine the funding available from the previous appropriations and are working with the U.S. Department of Education and partner organizations to stay informed on any developments. They will provide updates as soon as they have more definitive information and thank districts for their understanding and patience as they navigate this highly unique circumstance. And so specifically what that means for us, they did mention Title IC, but we don't receive Title IC funding. We receive Title IA funding, which is our intervention programs for Lena McDonald, West Park, and PCR. Those funds are still being allocated, so we have those. However, for Title II, we were allocated a preliminary allocation of $83,668 for this year. That is frozen. Of that $83,000, we were going to transfer $20,000 into our Title I program because you're allowed to do that to help supplement that program because our costs for staffing exceed what we actually receive. Then for Title IV, kind of the same situation. We received $38,175 in preliminary allocation funding, and we transfer $15,000 of that into our Title I program to also supplement them. So essentially, we are, going to be short what we had planned of about $35,000 for our Title I program that we had counted on. And then the last one is Title III. we get about $11,915. That's what their preliminary allocation was. And those funds pay for Proprio, which is it's a translation service that we can use for our non-English speaking parents if they attend a IEP, if they attend a teacher's conference, parent-teacher conference. We can actually call up Proprio and they'll have an interpreter there so that the parent, understands what's being shared and can ask questions. And they also use that money to pay for supplies and materials. And sometimes Victoria will use it to attend a professional development activity. So as far as carryover, we're fortunate. We have a summer camp going on this summer for our. We used Title IV monies and had planned on using them for our community schools activities. And Brian was going to utilize some of those funds to pay for our summer camp that he's running this summer. And then he also had a big activity that he was going to launch at the middle school that would support their Pride program at the middle school. And so he had other things planned, but I have just enough carryover to at least cover those two important initiatives. And now we're just hoping to hear good news on the others. And I'm sure you've read a little bit about this in the paper, but this is specifically how the State Department is sharing and communicating with us, and then how it, impacts us. So, and that's all I have.
Thanks, Gary. Sorry again for interrupting.
Yeah.
And really, so the part, we have implemented a freeze otherwise on the Title II and the Title IV stuff, other than what we've identified. The $35,000 we can't really freeze. It's committed to salaries. I mean, you could lay off non-certified staff. I think the idea right now in the general communication is that there is some hope still that the money is there. The presidential administration is holding on to it for whatever type of review they want to do. So they are not releasing it to the states. So the money's there, the state has their formula, it's already, like everything's in the pipe, our plan's been approved. It's just there's literally the transfer to the state has not occurred. Which normally happens right away on July 1st and everything just kind of goes smoothly. In the interim, since that letter came out from the SDE, there was another Title V, right, which was after school programs.
Title IV.
Or Title IV, but for whatever.
Or after school, specifically.
For after school specifically.
Yeah.
The feds have now released that chunk. And so it's what still remains to be seen. Idaho had actually, just like what Carrie did, is like scraping together what little carryover you have and trying to make it work for these short-term things. Idaho had actually scraped together a chunk of money, I think it was about $3 million, that they had planned to target to these after-school programs. So they didn't just like, they have like, unlike a school district, which has other state money and stuff, like they were entirely reliant on this. And we're expecting money on July 1, and we're told on July 1 it's not coming.
Yeah.
And so they were laying people off. They were calling parents and saying this summer after school program is done. But since that has been re-released, the state was ready to kind of help supplement those programs for a little bit. I don't know if what the state scraped together they would consider to help districts on this. They haven't communicated that in any format. And it's probably not enough. The other thing, there has been some miscommunication around the Title 1A in that there has not been any communication that that's frozen or will be frozen or it's been released and moving forward.
They haven't mentioned it at all, so we're counting on that.
So I've seen a couple of districts out there that posted their dollar amount that they're potentially losing, and I'm like, they're including Title 1A, which isn't accurate, I would say. So there's some higher numbers than that. The big hole is really, right now, what the liability. We can freeze all professional development, which isn't good practice for teaching. We can freeze some of the Title IV programs we thought of, which included some other teaching and learning opportunities for students as well.
Including
also hiring a staff member to teach a class, right, at high school.
Right, and then it also helps to provide equipment to our makerspace classroom over at the middle school. That was another thing.
And a lot of those activities, so we can freeze those. The whole is the $35,000 transfer that we just don't have. And right now, barring layoffs, we would have to eat that out of the general fund. Yep. Thanks, Carrie, for the bright, bubbly news. Carrie's done a good job navigating it too. I appreciate her. All right, mine is fairly short. Just wanna make note because the start of school is coming, it's August 27th. That'll be the first day of kids, it's also a board meeting. This is the next board meeting, so the next board meeting we'll have kids actually, we'll be done with our first day. And Emma Epperly, who I did visit with from Idaho Ed News, she's gonna do a little thing about the job of a superintendent, and I think she's gonna come on that day and kind of trail me for a little bit, and I'm excited for that. August 21st is the Thursday, just to mark your calendars, that we're doing something a little different with the back to school. And so if that works for you, that morning, you know, last year, 2 years ago, we went back to a district-wide meeting kickoff. This year, it's a little different because that's before the classified staff typically come back. We're gonna invite all staff back, the teachers will be here, for that day for the all-staff meeting and pay those classified staff for that short period of time, that the all-staff meeting is. And so what that will do is free up their other days when they're back to actually work in their buildings and not have to listen to me drone on. So you'd be welcome to come to that. It's at 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock on the 21st.
The leadership team and I, Carrie, Shannon, are you attending IASA?
Mhm.
Yep.
Yes.
And then the building principals are planning to attend the IASA conference this year. It is in 2 weeks, I guess. August 4th, I'll be traveling down. I think it's others are traveling down on the 5th, and then the 6th and the 7th is the conference, and then return back home. So school administrators down there learning, working with each other, and looking forward to that time. It's always refreshing to talk to other administrators who are doing much of the same things, tackling some of the very same challenges. So we'll be out of office then, and then really once you return from the IASA conference, it's foot on the gas pedal time. So ready to go. Other than that, that is my report.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, moving on to continuing the discussion on facilities.
Yeah, Butch and I met today with NIT. They are angling towards, we wanted to get a little bit more kind of engineering work done, kind of on some things. Again, this is like a middle school, high school, ideas around the middle school and the high school, I guess. One idea would be a swap, one idea would be a joint campus. They're exploring some of those things. We did a kind of hopefully the final walkthrough with them to see a few more spots that they had some things they wanted to look into, and they could actually see it in our buildings. I'm feeling really good about that, and we've set a deadline of August 4th to have that information in our hands. At that point, we're going to work to get a facilities group together of a large group of kind of constituents. Butch and I have developed the list, and then kind of present to them all of these ideas, really use it as like a focus group to listen to their concerns, or let them shoot some holes through it, whatever, let them poke at it, and then have a presentation for you guys at the next board meeting.
Okay.
So continue to move forward.
Okay, is that it?
Yep.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on to our first discussion item, the trustee election, November 4th, 2025. So Zone 2 and Zone 5 are up for election this year. And so the current board trustees for those zones are myself for Zone 2 and Brian Kennedy for Zone 5. The candidate filing deadline is August 29th, 2025 by 5 p.m. And information is available from the Moscow School District Board Clerk or the County Clerk's office. A candidate filing for either Zone 2 or Zone 5 must reside in the zone in which they are filing for. So that's coming up, so we wanted to do that announcement. And that's it for that one. And so then we move on to next discussion item, the board goals on growth.
Yeah, so if you turn to the document that I handed out, it's a 3-page document that says growth at the bottom. There's nothing new there, but after you guys' workshop, I have put together, you see the strategic priorities. On page 3, using kind of that bare template, I had an idea, I've bounced this off Carrie today and visited with her. So I wrote your goal at the top. You guys are free to edit this however you want. You can do whatever you want.
Oh, good.
Although the goal, yeah, this is your goal. I put together for you building an action plan, establishing achievement milestones, assigning some responsible individuals, the resource plan, and then setting an evaluation cycle. Here's what, just kind of an idea. And again, you guys are free to take this in whatever direction you want. Originally I thought quarterly to look at data. And so I thought, okay, well, 4 times a year. And then I thought, well, we actually have 5 board members. So I kind of like the idea of 5. So I snuck one more in there. The content areas of data reporting, because since we're focused on reporting data, would be ISAT, college and career readiness, behavior, IRI, which is reading, and graduation/attendance. So there's our 5. And then I thought what we'd do is we would assign one board member to become an expert, or quote unquote expert. I don't expect you to know everything, but in one of those areas. I randomly assign them in this document, and I'm happy to shuffle them around if people have interests. There really was not a lot of thought into it. Probably the only one I put thought into is I was like, well, Dulce's got a young child, so young reading scores might be good. It might be interesting. Everybody else, I just really kind of put a name. What I would propose is once on the month that we have that topic, which will be presented at the board meeting to talk about, say, like IRI scores or ISAT scores, that one board member would kind of meet with a district team, which would be composed of either me or Carrie or both of us. One of us would be there. A building principal or 2. And then a couple of staff members that those building principals would pick to bring along with them. We do a 1 to 2 hour kind of deep dive just with that one board member and that kind of like light elite team, so that board member could start to not in a big, sometimes it's hard in this 5-person forum to be like asking all those deep questions, and so they would be the person, they'd be on the spot, they could ask questions, they could look for more data or say, hey, when we go back to the board, I would want to see this too. Just one meeting, maybe a week to 3 weeks before the board meeting, the district would put on. Then after that, we would present at that board meeting, and that board member would kind of be like a little bit of a lead. I wouldn't ask them to make a PowerPoint or something. We can support that, but that board member could help lead the conversation around performance, and then we move on to another topic. So there would be 5 meetings like that and 5 pre-meetings. Each board member would only be responsible for one of those pre-meetings. I just wrote out some calendar months for meeting times, and again, those could all be shifted. I'm open to thoughts from you guys. And then as far as resources, we talked about $100 stipend. This wouldn't be negotiated or anything. I haven't even run it by Jen, but the cost is really low. We would run it out of because it's so low, that it'd be 5 meetings at about $100 a piece, $50 for 2 teachers. Either if it was during the school day, that would go to pay the sub. If it was not during the school day, it would go as a stipend to the teacher. And so then we would do that. That budget would come out of the board budget. It would be $500, and their commitment to kind of being able to have these meetings. I don't see it as being cost prohibitive. And then we would evaluate it as we go, and we would evaluate it at the end of the year. So that's my proposal for you. You can wrinkle it up and throw it away, or you can take it and mold it, or if people are interested in certain things, or if the months don't make sense to you and you'd like to change that up, I'm happy to do any of those things.
So
Or take any questions about my idea.
So I think it's a great idea. It's a little better than my idea, because I knew I actually was supposed to come up with some idea.
Okay, yeah.
But no, this is better. The only thing I might add to it is it'd be helpful if we produce some sort of written documentation for each one of these 5 meetings, so that next year I can find it and compare. Are we improving? Have we lost ground? It's always that year-to-year stuff that, seems to go in one year and goes out the next, and my eyes blur over and all that. But if I can look at a report, and hold on to that, that would be really helpful for me, I think.
So do you think a written documentation after that, the initial pre-meeting?
Well, you said not
or
a
after the-
PowerPoint, but it
Yeah.
could be something they just
Yeah.
hand out at the meeting and we
Yes.
all take home or something.
Yep,
Yeah.
I like that.
Mhm.
I like that idea. The
It
other,
doesn't have to be huge.
yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't mention, I also just put in that as far as the action plan, providing space for the board members to question and answer during that time, during that presentation time when we all get together. And then also a commitment, it's just one little note, but the next meeting follow-up, so that the way our process would work is we'd present, listen, and then it would give one more chance to say, well, maybe we don't have the data that all 5 board members talked about, and maybe we have to go back and put that as an agenda item on the next time.
Right.
Or maybe sometimes we'll explain it perfectly and everybody will get it, and
And
it doesn't have to.
And at these meetings, the ones you have listed here, we're not gonna talk about policy.
No,
No.
well,
Just wanna make that clear. Policy's off,
I hope.
unless there's
Yeah.
something desperately needing to be done, and there, but, cause we've gone through all the
Yeah, I
policy.
think, yeah,
So now we can go start again looking at ones, but we don't have to do it as much or as often, so.
I'd be hesitant to say that they'll never cross over,
No,
just cause I
no.
don't know when their quarterly updates will come out and how, if they'll be important ones or minor ones. And especially as you get into spring and they start passing laws, then.
Oh, yeah,
But-
that's different.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, the
I think there's a general
regular,
commitment.
let's look at every policy, every meeting thing.
Yeah.
No, we'll look at the ones that we have to change or we have to deal with.
These will
yes,
also overlap a little with the building meetings, just so you know, but I think we're just running those as 2 separate things. We're still gonna continue to report the building stuff, starting with Lena Whitmore in September, but, so there'll be like a double one there.
Yeah.
But they'll just be 2 different topics that we're talking about, but, yep, we will try to be very careful about policy and not
Yeah.
overwhelming.
Yeah, no, well, there's times when we're gonna have to deal with.
And sometimes
it.
because policy has to be read twice, so you're gonna have to have it on
You're right.
one of the 2
exactly.
meetings, so.
But- And that's right.
And then Sean, can I mention the comprehensive? So a complement to the goal that you have is, one of our goals is to develop a comprehensive assessment system, K-12. We currently have one in place for our K-5 schools. And then I gave you guys a handout on the 3 major components of a comprehensive assessment system. The first one is called formative assessment. This is ongoing. It happens every day in the classroom. It's a teacher communicating to the student how they're doing, the student understanding where they're at within the work that they're being asked to do. And the next one is an interim assessment, which I feel that we do, but we do not do this formally. We do it at the elementary level, but for the middle school and the high school, they're doing some of this stuff, but it's not formally in place. We don't have that data accessible. Like if Sean wanted to check on how our kids are doing in December, there's no way for us to click and look, but we've recently adopted student analytics to our Power School program that we're going to be incorporating, and we're hoping somehow to have that data in there and to have a way to say, how are our kids doing? Are they on track? Our middle school and high school teachers specifically, I'll say more so at the high school level, with our 5 to 9 committee that we started this year, where we're really looking at student data, they're really interested and intrigued by like what the elementary school is doing and the whole concept of tracking student progress in a formal way to know whether are we going to meet that target at the end of the year instead of a wait and see, we think we are. But we don't really know. So I thought I'd share this with you because the activities that Sean mentioned, the 5 different meetings, those are primarily summative in my mind. I mean, they're kind of like how end of the school year, looking at the whole, our state mandated assessments, those types of things. But I wanted you also to know or to see the full picture of we're going to be looking at formative, interim, and summative assessment. And I won't read it to you, but at the bottom, the right assessment for the right purpose, it gives a really great analogy about why each one of those are different and how it's important for us to be using the right assessments to measure those 3 things. So I just wanted to throw that out there because it seemed appropriate as we mentioned these goals for you as a board. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's pretty helpful, thanks.
So I will add a bullet point to the evaluation cycle to just say that we will collect written documentation from each of these presentations.
Do you think it's worthwhile for us to look at the summative assessments? Cause I noticed that they're not, the only one on here is the IRI.
And the ISAT.
Well, yeah, but I mean the ones that like aren't third, fifth, and eighth or something like that.
Are you talking about like,
Is that's not the ISAT, the ISAT is.
ISAT is third grade through eighth and then also 10th grade.
except in science, Dawn,
Yeah.
you might be thinking of third,
Third,
fifth, and
fifth.
eighth for
Okay,
science.
Yeah, and I just put all the subjects in
Yeah.
ISAT together.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
I was confusing the ISAT with the one that the juniors take.
SAT.
Okay.
And I would say SAT, I originally, instead of saying college career, I just wrote SAT in my first draft. And that was that's
okay.
kind of my intent. But really then I thought, well, there's our career technical certifications that we're getting. There's the ASVAB test, there's the SAT. We have a small group of kids that take the ACT. There's the PSAT before. So that's gonna lump all of those kind of junior, senior tests into one data report. SAT is gonna be the big one in that.
Okay. I also had a note about our SIP and how we wanted to look at that before we said
Yeah,
it
before
in.
the August 1st deadline. We
And I
basically have
wondered-
2 meetings now, so Carrie and I visited about that a little bit today. We just got the guidance from the state.
We did, and
Just
the
came out.
training, the webinar and
Yeah.
training on that is next Tuesday, which I'm signed up and registered for. The SIP will be
Excuse
due,
me.
like we have to have it published on our website October 1st.
1st.
So, and we talked about how a lot of this work that we plan on doing on our initiatives will be incorporated in that SIP.
Yeah, we're gonna write a little bit of that.
A little
in this.
reflection there.
Okay.
A lot of the state SIP is pretty formulaic. We talked about that last month too. But so we'll shoot to have something in your guys' hands in the August meeting too.
can,
It's gonna be
yep.
busy. But and then September for a second reading.
Well, ideally, we
We'll
should, I
approve
mean,
it.
that's August
Yep.
27th, and we have to have it up on our website in 3 days. So really, honestly, we should have it.
No, because we're August and September.
Oh,
We
yeah,
have
you're
two-
right,
We have two.
September. You're
We've got time.
correct. You're right, yeah.
But
So,
if we could have something in your hands
Right.
in August and then have a chance for you to re-review it in September for any last minute changes, and then Carrie's got 3 days to get it up on the website.
Yep.
All right,
Thank you.
yeah, great, thank you.
Any preference around the assignments, or is everybody okay with that?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. And then you could rotate around to something different next year.
And Dulce and Brian aren't here.
Yeah,
so
they don't get a chance.
So-
Can I left something off my report and I just wanna tackle it. They can give me in trouble, or put me in jail. They're not gonna. There's no board decision. I wanna add, I do wanna report, cause it was on my list and I didn't get it on there. And it's not as an action item. The House Bill 41, which was the new law around prohibiting the display of banners and flags on school property that convey political, religious, or ideological views. So I've wrestled around with this, visited with other school districts, and here's my thought, and I just want to make sure the board's aware of it. I do not believe that the "everyone is welcome here" slogan or saying is political in nature, nor are the multicolored hands raised are political in nature. My thought is that it aligns with, we talked about our vision as a district on this document that says, we envision a school district where students, families, educators, and the broader Moscow community grow together in a culture of connection, trust, and mutual respect. Our schools will be safe, inclusive spaces that prioritize student well-being, academic excellence, personal growth for each and every student. By fostering strong relationships and encouraging collaboration, we aim to build a healthy and supportive environment that equips every student to thrive academically, socially, and emotionally. Together, we will nurture lifelong learners who who are prepared to contribute meaningfully to their communities and confidently navigate an ever-changing world. A couple of bullet point plus there. Growing together in a culture of connection, trust, and mutual respect. Safe, inclusive spaces that will prioritize student well-being, and building a healthy and supportive environment. I think that in that vision statement for our district, everyone is welcome here is in line with that. And it is what we do. And we have never, as a district or teachers, have not grabbed that from some sort of political or other kind of charge. I know it's become maybe charged that way, but I also know that you could change that statement from everyone is welcome here to anyone, or everybody, or something like that. And does that immediately make it illegal? Well, I think it aligns with our district's purpose. So that is my interpretation, and that is what I intend to go to the staff with. Now, I do want to be careful because this law did change some things, and so there are some things that I think would now be banned, many of which are prohibited is a better word, many of which are not in our schools anyways right now. But that includes things like a directly political flag, like whether that would be Make America Great Again flag, or an Obama Hope flag, or something like that, or something published by the Democratic or Republican Party or the Libertarians or the Constitution Party. The Pride flag is also included in that, the Gadsden flag, and others. So there are other flags that are specifically prohibited in that legislation, and I will work with staff if they have questions about a specific flag or a specific banner, whether it meets that definition of political, religious, or ideological in nature. I also will be communicating to staff that if they do have an everyone is welcome here banner or sign that has an emblem or carries an emblem of a political party or an organization or something else like that, I will be advising them that is likely could likely be interpreted as political in nature. So for example, if you have an everyone is welcome here sign with an emblem on the bottom that says from the whatever party, the Green Party, and it's on that on that piece, then that would be, obviously then, you're making a statement from that political entity. And so those types of signs would not be allowed. Or really any sign that says something like that has that emblem would fall under that category. So my intention as a superintendent is to communicate that part out, that there are some things that will be potentially banned or not allowed in classrooms, that specifically with the everyone is welcome here. Now, what will happen with that? I don't know. The State Department has issued some guidance that kind of actually tiptoed a little bit around the everyone is welcome here, but brought it up. I know the Attorney General has issued some guidance that came out in an Idaho Ed News records request. Ultimately, the way the law reads is that the State Department of Education is charged with managing this. And so we will continue to work with the State Department of Education. And if they make decisions, I will do my best as a superintendent to comply with the State Department of Education as we move forward. So there is a process. Encourage staff that if somebody has an issue with a flag or a banner in a classroom, hopefully they're proactively seeking me out if they want to put, or a principal out, if they want to put up a flag or a banner. And if at the end of the day, if they have one up that gets questioned, that there is our uniform grievance process, which includes going through me and through the board to say that this is a violation. And we would go through that process if somebody brought up a grievance against us. The State Department also has created a website for a grievance against a school district or a teacher putting up a flag or a banner in their classroom, and that they have their own process for as well. But one of the check boxes in there is, have you gone through the local school district grievance process? I don't know what they'll do with that. They still may accept them and review them, or they might push it back and say, you need to go through this other process first. They haven't been clear about that. But I wanted the board, and since we kind of had it as an agenda item last time, there's no policy change. I want the board to be aware of what I will be communicating out to staff. Okay. Sorry about the order.
It's okay. Any
No,
questions or comments?
No, sounds good.
Okay.
Just looking for a little label and a pair of scissors.
All right, thank you, Sean. All right, moving on to our first action item then. First reading for new job description.
Yes, so I'll talk very briefly about this. This is not a new job that we're adding per se, like as far as another person or another new position. This is a slight shift. So we've had an opportunity with changing staffing, with a resignation, to kind of repurpose and shuffle, really what I would say is an organizational structure shift. We currently had, or previously at the beginning, at this time last year, we had 2 network specialist positions and a network tech position. That changed kind of mid-year to 1.5 specialist positions and 1. And now we'll be returning back to what we had last year at this point. But there will be a tech supervisor, followed by a tech specialist and a technician. Network specialist and a network technician. I believe this kind of leads us in the right direction, assigns some leadership in really doing continuing to grow our work in integrating better in the classroom, and making sure we have both short and long-term vision of technology in the classroom.
I had a couple questions. The AA degree, that's associate, what? It's at the very top line,
Successor
number 1
position,
required.
AA degree in information systems.
Mm-hmm.
What is AA?
An associate's degree.
Associates,
Yeah.
what,
Associate
why?
of Arts. Yeah.
Oh, okay, Associates of Arts.
So they don't have to have a bachelor's, they can just have an associate's
Right.
degree.
It's
Instead
those are
of BA,
required.
It's an AA.
Okay.
Yep.
And then down in number 3, it says tier 2. Is that something that's?
Yeah, so kind of around the tech world, like a tier 1 support would be your immediately like phone line, like have you unplugged have you restarted your computer? Have you turned the screen on and off? Have you updated your software? So that would be tier 1 support. Most probably staff, and really what I would say is in our buildings, we have ed techs that provide some level of that tier 1 support. Honestly, sometimes I've been a tech director, is it plugged in? Which occasionally works. That would be tier 1. Tier 2 would be a little bit higher level of technical expertise on support.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
On number 5, I would suggest we put excellent leadership and customer service, comma, communicate effectively and work cooperatively. So put an and where the comma is after leadership and put a comma where the and is after service. Because you're saying excellent leadership and customer service. You're defining the customer service as excellent. Communicate effectively is the next one, and then and work cooperatively. Number 7.
Or what do you think, Dawn, about just taking out that and putting in a comma, just saying ability
Well, I think
ability.
customer service needs to be
with leadership?
with excellent. That's,
Oh, yeah, gotcha.
you could put excellent customer service in there. I mean, you could put excellent in there
Okay.
again.
Yeah, I like what you're saying, that's fine.
Well, why can't you just say excellent leadership, comma, customer service, comma, and communicate effectively and work cooperatively?
Well, comma is an and or this. I just thought you were modifying
It puts
customer
those two
service
things
as
together with
excellent.
excellent
Yeah.
leadership and excellent.
Yeah, I was seeing them as separate. They provide excellent leadership, you're providing customer service,
And communicate. communicate effectively.
Oh, I thought the
Well, all right, then
excellent
you could put a comma
distributed across
after,
the list.
instead of two ands, you could put a comma after customer service. Communicate effectively and work. That would make a better series too.
Just add one more
So whatever.
comment in there.
And then I was looking at number 7. And I was thinking it needs a verb like be able to install and configure Microsoft Exchange, Cisco switches.
I think that probably just got copied and pasted over from the specialist because it's a similar skill, but ability to install and configure.
Be
So
able
there's-
to, or yeah, ability
Ability
to, yeah, that'd be
ability
fine.
to would match the others then.
Okay, so ability to install and configure Microsoft Exchange, Cisco switches, and internet
Yeah.
connectivity.
I'll put in a plug for avoiding specific products,
Yeah,
because otherwise, go buy new switches, now we're out of date again, so.
Yep.
You might ponder that.
I think that one just survived from the other, but yes,
Maybe it's important
you
right
could
now
put
for them to.
network switches.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then-
Ability to install and configure, Microsoft Exchange is a thing. Network switches and internet connectivity.
Okay, and then down where it's number 2.3.
Mhm.
No, sorry, yeah, 2.3. I guess it's pretty picky. Never mind. 2.4. I'm not sure what software images are.
Images would be like that we could take an image of like a device and then save that and be able to place it on a new device when we install it.
Kind
So
of like a
it's-
copy of the entire
Yes,
hard drive, so
yes,
you
yeah.
just
Oh.
instantly install all the software, it's all properly configured.
Yeah, okay.
So when we get a new laptop, we just take the image of the old laptop and flash it on there, and it's all there just like it was.
Okay,
All the settings and all the software and everything.
Or if they
guess
destroy their
something else,
computer, then you can restore it from this image.
okay,
Mhm.
thank you. And then
Not
3.4, I was wondering if that should be placed, is that just for hardware and peripherals and an inventory, or should that be part of 1.0, the leadership and support? Should it be like 1.4?
Seems like it goes with the hardware.
Does it? Okay,
Yeah,
you're assigning work
the word
tasks.
task for hardware peripherals and inventory management, that's.
Well, it says collaborate with operations director
Uh-huh.
and other technology employees to assign work and work
Right.
tasks.
So that, dealing with those things.
Okay, it doesn't have anything to do with assigning work tasks for technical support or system maintenance and installation.
I don't know, I mean, the way I'm reading it is just that one,
It's only for hardware.
yeah.
Could, I mean,
Okay.
you could put it at 1.4 and it wouldn't, I don't think it would change much. And you kind of, if you read it as 1.4, it could apply to everything else below, but
Yeah,
most of what that is talking about is in that
okay,
3.0.
okay. That's fine. That's all.
You missed one.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'll say the T in tier 2 of qualification 3 should
lower.
be capitalized,
No capitalized. Where's that?
just like it is down at the bottom.
Okay.
All right.
I didn't want you to think I didn't read it.
Okay, anything else?
Okay, I will move that. Whatever. Okay. We hereby approve the job description for a technology supervisor.
And I will second it.
Moved and seconded, further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes 3-0. Okay, moving on to second reading of enrollment and placement requirements.
Yeah, and, like, I guess, unless you want me to talk again, it's a second reading, we did talk about it before, but I'm happy to
Right.
reminder, or really it's centered around the criminal offenses that are listed in that Idaho code.
I will move that the Board of Trustees of Moscow School District Number 281 approve the revisions to Section 5 Board Policy 5021.00 enrollment and placement requirements.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0. Moving on to second reading out-of-district transfers.
And that's just, again, the out-of-district transfers, and we did have a lengthy discussion last time about that numbering system, but it's there as the number 5 now.
Right.
I will move that we hereby approve the revisions to section 5, board policy 5021.10, out of district transfers.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Passes 3-0.
Really just a big update in line with the ISBA policy. This is grabbed directly from the ISB policy
Right.
around the immunization requirements and immunization exemptions.
Do we mean 52.3? Or is it really 0.03?
Oh yeah, which is it?
Cause I had a question on 0.0, oh yeah, okay, 0.01. Yeah, it is 0.03, okay.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
A minor
Yeah.
correction in
Which one?
01, under 01, A, third line down, immunization should probably be plural.
A.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So required immunizations would endanger the life.
We can make that change as
Yeah.
a technical
That's
correction.
And then the statement at the bottom of that page after D, I think applies to only A and B. I don't think it applies to C and D, does it? Cause you're saying it's okay if they have a,
I think with the may, it can apply regardless.
cause if they have proof of
Immunization.
the listed disease, they don't have to, they're not exempt.
They may not be exempted to it. It doesn't say shall, Dawn, so I think it just is, since it has the may, it doesn't matter as much that it's like underneath those A, B, C, D. We, and I think I mentioned this last month too, the chances, I think, coming out of COVID that you would, in today's day and age with an outbreak, I don't think you would exclude students. In my
Okay.
opinion, as a superintendent, you have to have that option. But I really think, like, if we were getting to the point where we were excluding students from school, we would probably shut down to, again, stop a spread and then come back together.
But if they had a laboratory proof
Yeah.
of measles,
Yeah.
you wouldn't exclude them from school.
Right, but the may be excluded covers that. 'Cause it's
May
not saying
means
we
that I
have
would
to
not,
exclude it.
yeah.
We could,
It says
but
like-
we're not going to.
It basically says if they're not, you are right, I mean, but I think with the language may, it doesn't change how it would be implemented.
Okay.
Yeah,
but-
because I don't think it changes anything there.
And in 03, item E, number of children who have had all of, I don't think we need meet in there. Or you can
Just have to
say, or
who
have
have
met all. You could take out had and,
I actually
Who
think
have
that
met.
language is directly from ISBA, so you might have just caught their typo.
we need, yeah, either one or the other, not. So whatever.
I think
Well, it
we
definitely
would say-
shouldn't be meat.
Yeah, I would say number of children who have met all of the required
Yeah.
Okay,
immunizations.
take out had. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. That's all I have on that one.
Okay.
Okay.
I will move that the Board of Trustees of Moscow School District Number 281 approve the revisions to Section 5 Board Policy 5152.00 and 5152.03 immunization requirements exemptions.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 3-0. Okay, second reading on suspension and expulsion.
So this is the kind of basically some definitions that weren't there around temporary suspension, extended temporary, prolonged, and then expulsion. And again, this just matches up with law on what's allowed. Building principals can suspend temporarily in or out for 5 days. Superintendents can extend that an additional 10 days, either in or out. And then a board could theoretically prolong it another 5 days with board action. So the maximum ever suspension is 20 days. And then after that, it would have to be considered for expulsion.
Okay, do we have somewhere else information about IEP exceptions? No,
Yes,
okay,
yes.
so that doesn't need to be
Nope.
stated, okay.
The intent of putting this in that 553 is mostly just to define those terms.
Okay.
So that, because they're referenced. And so it was, that other part of it wasn't necessary.
Okay, in that case, I will move that we approve the revisions and adopts the new policy as Section 5, Board Policy 53.00, suspension and expulsion.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Passes 3-0. Okay, so now we're moving on to rescinding Section 6 Board Policy on computer software.
So this is really unnecessary line, and I want that number 679 for the next policy that we're gonna talk about. We would consider computer software to be a part of curriculum. We don't need it.
I will move.
I was just gonna say, we have to rescind it before we can
Yeah.
talk about
Another policy.
the policy, yeah.
I will move that the Board of Trustees of Moscow School District Number 281 rescind Section 6 Board Policy 6079.00 selection of computer software.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, in further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes 3-0. And then we move on to second reading of the new policy.
Okay, yep, and then the new policy is required by state law. And this will be communicated out to staff upon approval. This really, this text comes from the ISBA recommendation. And belongs in that 6079 section. It really kind of includes 2 points which were both changes in the law. One is around what's called sexual education, or around human sexuality, which it requires us to seek active consent when certain topics are covered, including the list there of 11 items. And then the second part, well, there's actually kind of multiple parts. The second part talks about instruction on these topics shall be age appropriate, developmentally appropriate, and in accordance with state standards. And then it dives into really the kind of like actual, so there's education stuff that includes sex, and then there's the sex ed part. Any sex education, then there's multiple requirements that the state has put on, including that it has to include abstinence is a state law, that we cannot receive any sex education materials from someone who is an abortion provider, is required by state law, that if we're doing human sex education or any instruction on human biology, contraception, or STIs, which those fall into our sex education courses in grades 5 through 12, that you should play this, it's being called the Baby Olivia video. It doesn't actually say in the law that it has to be the Baby Olivia video, but the Baby Olivia video meets the requirements they have, including that there has to be an in-womb CGI images video of a baby developing. It has to be a video of a certain length and time, and all of these other requirements. That's Idaho law, and so when we teach our any human biology or sex ed class, we will play that video for those students according to this policy. Going back up to the beginning part about when we would seek active consent, there is a process there for someone to say that they think we should have sought active consent. The direction that I will be giving our staff is that if the primary intent of the work that you're doing, the lesson that you're doing in the classroom is one of these things, then you do need to seek active consent. So we're all navigating this law together as Idaho, and it doesn't mean that there's not going to be people, including us, that could trip up on things or upset something, but that will be my guidance to them to say, like, if the intent of your English unit is to talk about, say, sexual attraction for that day or that week, and that's the topic, then you need to be getting active consent. If your topic or a theme is around gender identity, then you need to be getting active consent to follow the law. If it's a topic in the literature, but it's not the topic, then that won't need parent consent.
Mhm.
We'll see if that holds.
Okay, I'm wondering about the statement under that list,
Mhm.
the third line under where it says gender identity. The third line down says, or other sex education. And it seems pretty broad to me. Like is talking about flower pollination? Is that sex education?
Sure.
Well,
We don't know.
under A, it says human
Well,
sexuality.
yeah, but under that, it says before providing instruction on any of these topics or
I think
other
I mean, the policy that they kind of drafted in this world that we live in actually leaves that a little vague. I think the law is focused on human sexuality, so I think we're okay.
Well, the other
You're right.
question I had was at the top of page 2, underneath the third item where it says additionally any instruction on human biology. What is human biology? Is that sex education, or is it like the heart and the liver and the
I mean that my interpretation, because that is the word that the Idaho law uses, is
Okay.
human biology. So if you're teaching about evolution of species or cellular respiration, that would not be human biology. But if you are talking about the organ systems in a human body, even including, if you're which our biology classes cover, but if you're talking about like the lymphatic system and the endocrine system, that's human biology, and that's the way it's written in there, and we should therefore then be showing the Baby Olivia video. There's some debate out there whether then showing the Baby Olivia video requires parent permission because of the other law.
Jeez.
Yeah.
It's a mess. It's a mess. It's not our mess, but we're left dealing. Well, they made our mess.
They made it our mess, yes.
I will move that the Board of Trustees in Muscat School District number 281 approve revisions and adopts the new policy as Section 6, Board Policy 6079.00, Health, Sex Education, and Human Sexuality.
second?
Been moved and seconded, further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Passes 3-0. Right, moving on to approval of the consent agenda. Anybody?
I'll move that the Board of Trustees of Moscow School District number 281 approve all items listed under the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0. Second public comment period of the evening, no public. On that note, we are adjourned.
I was closer.
Wait,
I was
Wait.
almost at 8:45.
wait, we're still on.
I won. It's closer.
There you go.
Okay, we're good. Now you can talk.
And
Right.